The battle of the Galibier is in full cry now, and one man, a Colombian, is showing them all how to tame this alpine mountain. And this is a problem for Christophe Lemaivel. That's bad luck.
Well, he's broken his rear derailleur there. You can see that big problem. He's going to have to wait a fair amount of time for his team car to come up alongside him. The derailleur very often happens. There's another move here coming from Case d'Epargne now.
Well, this is it. They've waited till the steepness of the climb, and now the favourites are ripping into the Galibier.
Alejandro Valverde has said, I like the Galibier, I'm going to make a move here. Michael Rasmussen takes up the chase behind him. So too, you can see, coming alongside is Cadel Evans, and Cadel Evans has got some power in him this afternoon, and he's going to have a move. There is Alberto Contador moving up. Iban Mayo, Levi Leipheimer, the big names are moving forward.
This is it. This is the moment. All of the favourites have gone together, and Cadel Evans, the man they keep saying only follows, is the man leading right now. Cadel Evans is testing them today. Valverde started it. There's a little split, and the Astana boys are back there. Cloden and Vinokurov have not answered the call of that little split.
Well, they need to be very attentive, and I know the big favourites, Phil, they're very worried about the situation around Alexander Vinokurov. They know they need to get some big time between themselves and him before this race goes down to the Pyrenees. A lot of riders swinging off the back now. Javier Florencio, the Spanish rider from Bouygues Telecom, trying to stay in contact with this group. What the riders from Astana must do is gather their forces now and try and slowly pace Alexander Vinokurov back into the group. Great job being done there by Johan van Sommer, and I'm amazed to see him going over these mountains.
Well, he's seen his man Evans get up into that leading group now, and this now is a battle of the big men. Sergio Paulino is in that second group. The yellow jersey below itching, but no reason to go round Valverde. And Evans has dropped behind the yellow jersey, but these boys, wait till they sweep here. This is the Galibier towards the summit with the crowds now, and that the big boys are testing each other once again.
Well, this is Iglinski. There's the leader of the young riders jersey there, going backwards. That was the man who made that massive big escape. And here is why the attacks are going on, because Alexander Vinokurov, Phil, has not been playing with us. He is suffering on the slopes of this climb. He's got Iglinski with him, and Iglinski will try and pace him back into the race a little bit later on. Gerdeman there in the white jersey is learning how hard the Tour de France can be.
And Patrice Algon, number 107, himself quite a good climber, also caught in the split here. They've wiped out to the lead of Juan Mercado. They've brought in, when he looks over his shoulder and he sees these boys, he'll know he's in the hot end of the Tour de France, because these boys are going to turn the gas on now to put Valverde behind. And the yellow jersey of Rasmussen is right there. They pick up a tailwind, judging by the American flag for the moment. Valverde joins Mercado, then Rasmussen, Cadel Evans, Contador, Leipheimer. They're all there, and I think Cloden is there.
Well, Cloden looked to be the tall, Longelaine figure of the Astana rider, but what a great champion move by Alejandro Valverde. There is Cloden just moving through. There is Christophe Moreau. There is Carlos Sastre. They're all here. Iban Mayo, all of the big names. The one big name that appears to be missing is Alexander Vinokurov, and I'm quite convinced, Phil, that is why they're moving like this. There is Andrei Koshekin on the back. Vinokurov is not in this group.
No, he most certainly is not. David de la Fuente is here, third in the King of the Mountains last year, and now just pushing behind them there. Staff Clement also gone back on the far left of the screen. He stepped aside from the tornado blowing along the side of the Galibier now. Valverde is setting the pace. They're testing each other, but as one unit, they're driving away from Vinokurov.
Well, this is the difficulty at the back, and now you can see another man who is having a bit of a problem there is Andrei Koshekin, and this is all the pressure on the front end of the main field. David Arroyo slipping back as well, as you mentioned, but I think all of these riders, Phil, are a little bit concerned about Alexander Vinokurov. They know there's 110 kilometres of time trialling left to go in the Tour de France, and they want to get as much time as possible over the Kazakh rider, because they know that he will ride himself back into form in this race. They know how tough he is. And of course, Alejandro Valverde remembers what happened to him last year in the Vuelta a España.
Vinokurov will muster his troops around him, but it's going to be a great pursuit now, because Sony Duval have got the top two climbers here, De La Fuente and Iban Mayo. Here's the white jersey of this young rider who's second overall. He could be losing his second place now. It's all happening on the Col de Galibier today. The face of Gerdemans, he's such a fighter. He just got to get over the top, and then he might get back to those leaders.
It's 37.5 kilometers from the summit of the Galibier right down to the finish. That's Sergio Paulinho going back there, the silver medalist from the Athens Olympic Games in 2004. But look at the damage that's being done in this main field now. Armets Churukwa going backwards there from Team Euskaltel Euskadi. Nearly all of the main favourites, though, Phil, are still in this group. And the man who is missing is the big rider from Kazakhstan, Alexander Vinokurov. That's Levi Leipheimer in second position. He's riding a defensive role here this afternoon. His teammate is at the back of that group as well, Alberto Contador.
The gap is the leaders, 33 seconds. The group Maillot Jaune we're looking at 2:35 off the lead, but they're not so worried about what is happening up front. This is an infight going on here between the favourites and the men who are heading up the classification. And they've got rid of the big favourite of the Tour de France right now, Alexander Vinokurov. The odds of him staying off the back of this group are not with the breakaways here, because there's a long way downhill to the finish.
Don't discount this man, though, because he hasn't got the accelerations. He's got a teammate alongside him, but sitting on his wheel is the man who finished second in the Tour de France last year, number 11, Oscar Pereiro.
His job, though, now is to sit there and, if it's to be, go down the tubes with Vinokurov. He can't help him get back up to Alessandro Valverde. This is the select group, and here comes another attack up on the inside now. And this is the sort of move we expected.
Well, this is Alejandro Valverde once again. Look at that little crucifix around his neck, bobbing in the wind with the acceleration, and Iban Mayo is the man trying to come across to him. This is a good move. There is Cadel Evans and the yellow jersey of Michael Rasmussen. I have to say, I don't think I've ever seen Alejandro Valverde ride like this.
They've caught Mercado. They caught him, and they've now dispatched him by another acceleration. Evans has clawed his way back with Mayo and De La Fuente. And behind, they're all coming back, but there's not so many now. I think Leipheimer's there. Moreau is trying, but he's a bit slow on the reaction at the bottom of our picture.
Well, Moreau, at 36 years of age, probably doesn't have the accelerations on these climbs that the younger riders have. He has to just be nice and calm and collected and pull himself back into this group, and he's doing that. They're seeing at the back of that group, bobbing along there, you could see Alberto Contador, and they've now started to get rid of this man, and this was the man that they were really worried about, Andrei Kushekin. He's slipping away.
And he was sitting in 5th place overall this morning.
Menchov is gone.
Menchov is trying to go. He's 5th place overall because Shakin is in trouble. Denis Menchov, he's doing a lot of work for his team leader in yellow. Might be paying the price here. 3:06 was slowly Vinokurov's group is losing ground. Well, who is going to be next to throw something in here?
They've only lost 30 seconds to Alexander Vinokurov at the moment. He won't panic. He's got a teammate alongside him. There's still a long way to go to the summit of this climb. And if you're an older rider, you dare not drag yourself into the red zone, because if you do that, you will not recover. He's riding right now on experience. Cloden is still in contact, though.
We are looking at 11 riders here. These are not the leaders on the Col de Galibier, but they are the favourites. They've now put another favourite in trouble, which is Denis Menchov, just at the bottom of the picture. Vinokurov is here in this group. I don't think they're opening big enough gaps. I think they will all ride back, but the leaders have shown the colours today.
Well, Team CSC are struggling too, because looking at that group, I couldn't see number 31, and Team CSC may be having a little bit of a problem with their man, Carlos Sastre.
Looking at the back of the champion of France, he's just about hanging in on this wall that's taking place now. He's only just on the back there of Iban Mayo, who's on the front of the group. Moreau fighting his way back in, the Breton flag there. A little bit limp at the moment, so they're in a sheltered part of the climb. Well, I think for now we can forget that Cadel Evans is not a follower, because he's been sharing the work and he's gone again.
Well, he's gone to the front. They've now seen their opportunity to put time between themselves and, of course, Alexander Vinokurov. Actually, just at the back of that group is Carlos Sastre. He's 3 from the rear, so he's comfortably in there, the leader of Team CSC. But Valverde is the man, Phil, who is really trying to nail everybody down here this afternoon, looking over his shoulder to see what sort of damage he's doing. Iban Mayo is in 4th place. Contador, dancing all over that machine, is trying to stay up there as well. And Levi Leipheimer, I have to say, is actually looking very comfortable.
They're all just taking the pain that Valverde is throwing at them right now, and if they feel they might get him, they'll hit him. They're all conscious of the fact there's a long way to the finish downhill, and they know that whoever they drop at this point should rejoin on the chase to Briançon. And I wonder if Moreau remembers that, because he's now coming back again. There's the two climbers. The work that David Miller did today has set up his two top men for a likely stage win. The guy in orange there for T-Mobile trying to just bring this team back into the race after all of their bad luck of the previous 2 days. And that's Kim Kirken, and he's climbing very well today.
Well, there you can see him in the pink jersey just at the back there, but this is a massive battle as we come up towards the summit of the Col du Galibier. The sad thing is, though, that there's 37 kilometres to go to the finish line in Briançon, and unfortunately the last 1.5 kilometres are up to the summit of this climb here in Briançon. It's going to be very difficult, but we've forgotten about this man, Juan Maurizio Soler. He's riding alone at the front of this race. Never mentioned his name before the start of the Tour de France, and now all of a sudden he's becoming a star.
And if he can get over the top with any lead at all, they'll continue the infighting. He might get away. There's a shot by, it's gone by. This is an attack here now as we start. This is
Contador.
Contador, who has gone clear. An attack by Alberto Contador, 40 kilometres from the finish. This is the rider who was frustrated on the road up to Tignes when he got a back wheel flat tyre. When he was with the leaders, he got a tyre change, swept through the remnants of the chase punch and almost rejoined the leaders.
He's just gone past his own teammate there, Jaroslav Popovic. This man, Johan Brunel, said to us, Phil, at the Dauphiné Libéré, I have rarely seen a man who can accelerate on a climb like Alberto Contador. Cadel Evans has seen the danger there. He's grappling to get himself across. He's seen this as a very important move, and Michael Rasmussen has not followed the accelerations.
I don't think he can. It's not his suited way of climbing here. He's going to have to climb his way back in, and he's got Leipheimer on his back wheel, who can't help him now because Alberto Contador, his teammate, is racing up towards the leaders.
Well, on this wheel there, the wheel of Levi Leipheimer, in fact, was Jaroslav Popovic as well.
And just look at this now, a terrific effort by Cadel Evans here, indicating to us, Paul, this man could win this year's Tour de France. He's a great time trialist, and he's going back up to a man who is an absolute Tour revelation. Alberto Contador's never ridden the Tour before. He was almost dead with a serious head injury. He has a plate right over the top of his skull. And now Contador saying, you've caught me, work with me.
Well, that was a little sign there. He moved his finger around in a circle and said, come on, let's work for this. We've got a gap now over everybody else. If you want to win the Tour, mate, you better come with me, and you had better work together. It's still around about 2.5 kilometres to go to the summit of the Col du Galibier. Cadel Evans is all over his machine. He saw that move coming there. He knew he had to stay with it. And looking back, that's a nice, serious gap opening here. We're looking at around about 30 seconds by the time we see the next group of riders appear. Valverde, Rasmussen, Leipheimer, Popovic, Iban Mayo, and the rest still in there as well. Dangerously is Andreas Kloden.
Well, and this rider trying to still get back on terms. If he can just hang in here, he will get back on terms on the way down. But you know, if those riders can reach the Colombian rider, they could work their way to victory here, and that would be a terrific coup for both Contador and especially so for Cadel Evans.
Well, it's a big move, but it's a tall order to ride all of that distance right down towards the finish on your own. Rasmussen now seems to have recovered a fraction. He was probably taken aback by the accelerations there a few moments ago, looking over his shoulder, trying to figure out, what do I do next? I've got no teammates left.
He's hurting.
Everybody, that's Valverde.
He's hurting, I think. He's made his moves, it didn't work, and he's been outnumbered here.
Well, moving forward again, this is Cordot, the young rider from Saunier Duval. He's been a big revelation here this afternoon. He's thinking about his own man, Iban Mayo. Contador's not thinking about anything except he wants to get to the front of this race. Flick of the shoulders to Cadel Evans. Come on, mate, you want to win the Tour, you have to work for it. I'm not going to drag you to the summit of this climb.
Well, Contador doesn't speak any English. He speaks only Spanish. So goodness knows what he would say to Cadel Evans. But they are, I think Cadel was hit so hard there, he couldn't help him, Contador. And if he tries to work with Contador, he might find Contador will leave him. There is the lone leader, Juan Mauricio Soler Hernandez, the new star on the block from Colombia, came from the back of the race to take them all and shake them out and ride alone up the Col de Galibier. Thank you, the Col de Galibier. And this, a wild card team, and this man, his first Tour de France.
Phenomenal performance by this man. He's 2 minutes and 42 seconds ahead of the yellow jersey, but Contador has certainly got the legs this afternoon, and he's putting Cadel Evans in difficulty.
That's what I thought.
Cadel Evans cannot follow the pace of this young man. He tried to get him to work with him, and he saw that Evans didn't have the speed that he's got on these climbs, and said, right, I'm off.
Well, Solar is the man up front. He is distanced to Cadel Evans, who tried desperately to mark him. Everybody is saying, you know, especially the Spanish, that Contador can win this Tour de France. If you're English, the Australians are saying Evans can win the Tour de France. Well, I guess they both felt they could. That's why they went together.
Well, the big problem is this Tour de France is very difficult to predict. We're still looking at a long way to go to the finish line. We've still got the Pyrenees to go after we finish this Alpine stage today. But these guys have been absolutely slammed with these accelerations. Hats off, though, to the man in third position there, Alejandro Valverde. He rode like a true Trojan, trying to ride himself back into the group again. The rider here from AG2R is Francis Moreau, and he's really using all of his experience, I have to say, this afternoon.
Well, Gusev has been dispatched backwards from that leading group now, and that could be a stepping stone for Moreau to try and get up there. Look at the gap. There's Gusev, and he's been passed by Moreau now. So the young man on Discovery Channel is great there. He's riding into the headwind, which will make it that much harder. The same headwind which has cracked Cadel Evans, but he's still up front, although he's not riding now with Contador.
Well, Gusev will recover a fraction here. He's riding with a man who's got a lot of experience, and you know, Christophe Moreau has yet to crack on this climb. He's riding at his own tempo. Maybe he didn't get through the rest day quite as well as he thought he was going to. This is the man that everybody thought was going to win the Tour de France this year, Alexander Vinokurov. He went down in a very nasty crash on the stage to Auton, and he's still trying to get over. Let's not forget, don't take anything away from Alexander Vinokurov. He has stitches in both knees and in his elbow, but he's such a tough character. He will not give up this Tour de France, Phil, without a fight.
Well, ahead is the lone rider Solar. Behind him on his own too is Jaroslav Popovic. They've wiped out Gusev and the rest. And now Cadel Evans trying to reach them with Contador, but they've split up as well. These boys here are just hoping they can limit the loss over the summit, and they will chase down. But there's a lot of team riders here of men who are ahead, and they will not help. Frank Schleck here could be a very lonely man in the pursuit back.
Well, he could. It's great to see Chris Horner. I don't think I've ever seen Chris Horner ride so well in the mountains of the Tour. I think inspired by the fact that he believes his teammate Cadel Evans has got a serious crack at winning the Tour de France this year. But Evans has just been cracked by a flying Alberto Contador. There is the lone leader there, and he is riding towards the summit of this climb. He's got 1 kilometre to go to the summit, Juan Mauricio Soler, and he's got 2 minutes and 50 seconds advantage over the group containing the yellow jersey. But the downside for that is, Phil, he's got a large group of riders who can chase him on the last 40 kilometres to the finish.
Well, he climbs like a spider, but he also climbs like an angel as he races up this climb here. He's not slowed down at all. There's nobody going to catch this boy by the top. And if he gets his way, he'll race all the way down to the finish. What a result that would be for Barlow World, the South African squad. Here is now Popovic. He's been riding in second place and off our cameras, and he continues to climb well and score well in the King of the Mountains.
This is actually Contador, who's actually out of the saddle. The same coloured jersey, not quite the same pedalling style. He's a much thinner rider, and he's bobbing out of the saddle. This is a phenomenal performance, but you're right, Popovic is still in second place on the road. Contador has now climbed up into third place on the road, and Cadel Evans is in fourth.
Those four riders now totally split asunder. The rest of the favourites, with the exception of Vinokurov, is in that group. And Christophe Moreau has got back.
Well, Christophe Moreau has done a phenomenal job. He's the oldest rider in this leading group, 36 years of age. So the French can now nurture hopes again that they may well still win the Tour de France 2007 with their national champion there, who's got onto the back of this group. The group now, though, Phil, has swelled in numbers, and once again, the only man seriously missing from this group of the pre-race favourites is Alexander Vinokurov.
The 10 riders in the pursuit of the others, and in fact now Valverde trying to pull himself back into action here. He's recovered from being hit. He's looking to see if he can see Cadel Evans up the road. They should pick him up on the way down. Fans getting a little out of control at the back there because there's not much in the split here. Leipheimer only followed today, handicapped by an attack. It was a definite plan by Team Discovery Channel today, and I just wonder whether the plan was for Leipheimer or Contador when Popovic went away on the Liseron and was quickly followed by Gusev, and then that they've made the best of the counter-attack.
Well, the dangerous move for the main contenders is the fact that once Alberto Contador catches Jaroslav Popovic, the two riders will then be able to work together with the possibility of opening up a serious advantage over the rest, because it's amazing if you're in a breakaway with a teammate, you can push yourself just that little bit further. I feel sorry for Alexander Vinokurov here. He's going through all kinds of hell to keep himself in with a chance of the Tour de France this year. But I'll tell you one thing, his popularity at home in Kazakhstan will be going right through the roof with this brave performance.
Well, Maxim Iglinski is just nursing him here, just keeping the tempo he can happen. He would love to close it back up to this group, as Popovic knows if he can just stay here, he should rejoin over the top. Here to the summit comes the man in charge now. Look at that crowd clapping all the way, and it's a Colombian rider in his first Tour de France who conquers the Col de Galibier. Juan Malicio Solar is over the top. Now the long way home to Briançon.
And that's going to give him a nice 40 points. And now just check out this descent. This descent is going to take this rider down to the top of what is known as the Col du Loteret. If you take a right-hand turn, you go to Alpe d'Huez. But fortunately for these riders, they will take a left-hand turn here this afternoon and head down the valley towards Briançon. But look at these. This is almost a death-defying descent. This bobbing figure here is Alberto Contador. In front of him, he's got a teammate, Jaroslav Popovic, who is lying in second place on the road. We haven't got a camera to stay with Jaroslav Popovic, but we are keeping a very close eye on this man, Alberto Contador.
Well, Contador now confirming what he showed us on the road to team, and he had a flat tyre when in shooting distance of going with the leaders over the line. He even nearly caught back up to them and dropped everybody else, including the favourites in hot pursuit. Today he's been free to fly. He is a great discovery now as he continues to climb here. We think in third place. His teammate Popovic is somewhere in the crowd line. We'll probably see him very shortly go over the top of the climb.
Well, Popovic is caught in no man's land, but there he is, and he may well have realised what's happening in this bike race here this afternoon. He knows how good his teammate is. I'm pretty sure this was a preordained plan by Johan Brunel, and very shortly there will be two Discovery riders chasing the lone leader, Soler. But importantly enough, they will work together, Phil, to try and distance themselves from the riders in that group behind. We're going to have a monumental chase down the road from the summit of the Col de Galibier down into Briançon.
Shortly they're coming together. Look at Popovic, he's looking back. This was a plan. He was expecting to see Contador coming up to him. He's waiting for him, and then there'll be a great pursuit. These two riders will descend like stones now, and if they can contact Juan Solar up front, they might not see these guys before the finish.
Well, this is a great team move here this afternoon. Johan Brunel has had it fairly easy winning the Tour de France on 7 occasions with Lance Armstrong, but he is a master tactician as well, and that's why this race was set up like this afternoon. Gusev and Popovic were sent up the road to lay the plans down for either Levi Leipheimer or Alberto Contador to go clear. Alberto Contador has seized this chance with his incredible acceleration on the Col du Galibier. Now these two men must get down the first couple of kilometres where it is a very dangerous descent. Once they've got down 2 or 3 kilometres, Phil, as Cadel Evans goes over the top there in 4th place, the road straightens up a fraction.
It is a very difficult descent, as Paul says. Now they've got to be careful here, but they're desperate. They've got the time gaps. They want to hold them. Here comes Valverde, trailed by Cloden and Leipheimer. Leipheimer's sitting there pretty now, 2 teammates ahead. He's got every excuse in the world just to follow and use no effort. Iban Mayo is still in there, the Maillot Jaune of Rasmussen. The only man of note who is missing, really, is poor old Vinokurov. Look at the face now of the rider on the front, as it's Valverde who goes over in 5th place.
Well, there's going to be a little bit of a sorting out in the overall classification this afternoon, but these riders now have got a serious chase to catch up. Well, 3 minutes and 15 seconds there is the deficit of the yellow jersey group, and they are a long way behind. Cadel Evans was around about 30 seconds behind, and he's going to have to seriously chase to try and make contact with Alberto Contador and Jaroslav Popovic. But the man who made the big move of the day over the summit of that climb has got to be a man we have never talked about before. Juan Mauricio Soler Hernandez. What a phenomenal performance. He's on the easier part of the descent now. The roads have started to straighten out a fraction. It's not as dangerous as it was in the first 2 or 3 kilometers of the descent.
Well, it doesn't look like a man who's waiting for anybody right now, Paul. He's hitting up about 85, 90 kilometers an hour. Slams all the brakes on for these hairpin bends, as now he's being chased by 2 really class bike riders in Popovic and Contador. Evans will take big risks, and he can descend very well. Ex-mountain biker, great bike handler. If he takes a few risks, he should catch up with Popovic and Contador. We're talking of class names here, Paul, who could hold off these riders behind.
Well, certainly this is the man who's going to have to make the big chase just at the back there, number 191, because that is Alexander Vinokurov. He is battling to stay in contact, but I think at the team meeting this evening, they're going to have to change their tune, and they're going to have to think about Andreas Klöden. We saw him ride so easily a couple of days ago on the climb up into Tignes, and today he just accompanied the leaders. I think Andreas Klöden, who's previously finished 2nd overall in the Tour de France, is going to find himself a pretty serious contender now for the leadership of Team Astana.
Well, we're looking at 4 minutes 54 now is the gap between the leader on the road and Alexander Vinokurov. And Popovic Contador are not that far behind Solar, but they've still got a couple of minutes, I think, to make up. We'll see as they go down here what they've got to do. 2:02 was the official gap over the top of the mountain for Contador and Popovic. 2 teammates now free to fly. Cadel Evans is at 2:40. He should be able to bridge 38 seconds and catch up those 2 riders out front.
Well, that will then make it a rather interesting overall classification, because Evans and Contador are pretty close together in the overall classification. They're only separated by 17 seconds at the start of the day. Looking a little bit further down, Michael Rasmussen got himself a few more points at the summit of the Col du Galibier, but this afternoon, Phil, he's thinking more about conserving his yellow jersey.
Absolutely, that's what he should be okay, but all of a sudden his near 4-minute lead over these guys looking a little bit fragile, isn't it? Solar, by the way, he's 7 minutes 31 seconds behind Rasmussen, so at the moment won't be seen as a big challenger. Contador, though, is only 3 minutes 10, and he could be in the yellow jersey very shortly.
And of course, don't forget, Cadel Evans is only at 2 minutes and 53 seconds, and so catching. He too could be catching up with them.
Yeah, absolutely right. This is a real pursuit now to Briançon.
This is at the back of the group, and this is the group of Alexander Vinokurov, Arrière de la Course. So we didn't expect to see that as we came into the Tour at the start this year. There at the front is Maxime Iglinski, just looking over his shoulder. He's pacing his leader as much as he can down this descent. They know they've got to bridge around about the 1.5 minute mark to get themselves back into the group with the overall leader at the start of the day, Michael Rasmussen. It is the kind of climb in the first part where you can close that kind of a gap down, but once they get to the summit of the Col de Loteret and take the left-hand turn, it's a much more steady gradient, and they will see themselves slowing down to an average speed of about 50 kilometers an hour, and there it will be very much more difficult to pull themselves back into this race. So that's what it looks like at the moment, 1 minute and 53 seconds. So the Contador-Popovic train are actually now starting to pull themselves back up to the lone leader, Soler. So that's where he's going to, right down in the bottom there. You can see that little collection of houses over to the right-hand side. That is the summit of the Col de Loteret. And from the Loteret, they are looking at 29 kilometers to go to the finish line. But it's pretty much, apart from the last 1.5 kilometers uphill to the finish line here, it's pretty much downhill for the rest of the way. And I have to say that Alberto Contador is doing a phenomenal job with his teammate Jaroslav Popovic. Here behind, we've got a little bit of a concern going, because David Arroyo is the rider doing the majority of work on the front for Case d'Epargne and for Alejandro Valverde. But they have got to work like anything to try and brutalize this race.
Well, as we now start the long way down this mountain, hold on to your seats here, because this is a long way down. These boys are up against it now. They're going to have to take risks, particularly the group containing Alexander Vinokurov.
They will have to take serious risks. It's 37.5 kilometers from the summit. It's 29 kilometers to the finish once they go through the summit of the Col de Loteret. And still, Phil, it is pretty much downhill for the majority of this race. we will look at an average speed for this last 40 kilometers or so of pretty close to 55 kilometers an hour, I would expect. And here is Soler. He's at the top of the Col de Lauterre. He will take a left-hand turn now and slowly but surely, I hope, get himself around there nice and safely. These two riders working exceptionally well together have got around about a minute's advantage over the yellow jersey group.
Well, I'll tell you what, the Contador is hurting Popovic here. He's trying to even descend faster than his more experienced rival. Surely they're going to latch on to those two riders. They've gone over the top 2 minutes plus behind, 2 minutes 4. They're now behind by only 1:45, so they are descending faster. And Cadel Evans, still on his own, went over about 40 seconds behind. And our computer's just got a question mark there, so he can't even time it at the moment.
Well, he's stuck in the middle of nowhere there. Sitting on the back there, the CSC rider is Carlos Sastre. Sastre is actually riding a very sensible race. David Arroyo is doing most of the work on the front of this group for his team leader, Alejandro Valverde. Moreau rode sensibly, used all of his experience of having been a professional for a long time to get back into the group. Michael Rasmussen there is nice and comfortable. All he's got to think about is making sure that nobody tries to slip away from him on the run into the finish. There is Levi Leipheimer.
Yeah, there he is, tucked in, the small man in this group. Everything going according to plan today. Team Discovery pulled a good card here. The racer watching Levi Leipheimer. They played their other strong men, Gusev, Contador, Popovic, all leading the charge now. Very clever plan. And as we watch here now, as the riders continue to go down, this rider just sitting off the back here for Team Discovery Channel.
Sergio Paolino.
Sergio Paolino. Now, where is he at the moment?
He's in the group there with Alexander Vinokurov. That group of Alexander Vinokurov is currently 1:40 off the back of the yellow jersey group. So Vinokurov is going to have to make a daredevil descent if he wants to pull himself back into the Tour de France here this afternoon. This is Carlos Sastre just sitting on the back. You know what? Carlos Sastre has actually not made a wrong move since the start of this tour. He's never made massive efforts. He's always been there and thereabouts, and he's probably waiting for the Pyrenees because those are the mountains that he loves.
He loves the Pyrenees. He's not happy in the Alps. He's had to really suffer to make sure he hasn't given away time here. He's not been a very aggressive rider because he hasn't been able to be. But he hasn't lost time, and at this stage of the race for him, that's what it's all about. There's the 10 or 11 riders that made up the attacks on the way up. They're gradually getting a little bit stronger. Moreau's got into that group now. Still no further news, but it looks as though the two chasers, Contador, Popovic, they've pulled back another 5 seconds on Soler. They're now at 1:40. But that guy up front is waiting for no one.
No, he's doing a phenomenal ride. He knows he's got to give everything. His big advantage is it's all downhill to the finish. He's got behind him the red cars of the race organization, just checking how fast this man is going. In one of those cars is the president of France, Nicolas Sarkozy, probably enjoying his day as visitors to the Tour de France here this afternoon. The referee's behind that, then the neutral service vehicle as well. But this man is plummeting down the roads towards Briançon. Still no exact time check to the position of Cadel Evans, but the race situation is one lone leader, 1:40 back to the two chasers from Discovery Channel, Alberto Contador and Jaroslav Popovic, and Cadel Evans somewhere in the middle there with the yellow jersey group at 2:56. So Contador, Popovic have got themselves a 1:20 advantage over the yellow jersey group, with somewhere locked in the middle there still Cadel Evans trying to keep himself in contact. So just having a look there now, these riders, if they want to keep themselves in contact, need to work together. Christophe Moreau is not holding anything back at all. He's decided, having had a hard time on the Col de Galibier, Phil, that he will now continue to work. This is the Vinokurov group, and the last official time check we got that he was 1:40 behind the yellow jersey group. He won't get any help from Juan Miquel Mercado in the white shorts there, or Sergio Paolino, who's got all of his best men in front of him.
Well, the two leaders, or the two chasers of the one leader, are closing in. 35 seconds they pull back now on this descent. We finished down in Gap, happy days there a couple of years ago for Alexander Vinokurov. He was the winner, but this time he's under pressure here, starting as race favourite. So just to give you a complete update on the spread, Soler still leading at 1:34. Alberto Contador, Jaroslav Popovic. Then they don't know where Cadel Evans is, but he's certainly behind and chasing. And then we have a group of 11 riders, including Valverde, Sastre, Rasmussen, the yellow jersey, Moreau and Levi Leipheimer.
Well, what these riders need to do now, Phil, is they need to form a serious coalition to try and reduce the deficit on these two men, because these two riders today will work exceptionally well together. They're two teammates. Popovic, when he can, will recuperate and will try to work with Alberto Contador, but let's not forget, he's been away since the very start of the race. There is the lone leader, and this is a man that we will talk about a lot more, I think, once we go through to the Pyrenean passes, because in the past the Colombians have always excelled more in the Pyrenees than they have done in the Alps. But for this man now, it's really a question of time trialing to the finish.
And he's burying himself here to try and hold them all off. It is a terrific result for his Barlow World team, given the wild card on trust that they could do a good ride, and here they are now riding superbly. We are looking close up now on the man who is reshaping the Tour de France. 22 kilometers to go. He leads down the Col de Galibier. This is Juan Mauricio Sola Hernandez. We've never spoken about him ever before from Colombia. At a minute 28, Alberto Contador and Popovic, two teammates, chase. Then about 40 seconds behind them is Cadel Evans, and at 2 minutes 40 seconds is the group containing the yellow jersey.
Well, the race situation currently is the yellow jersey group is 2.5 minutes in arrears of the lone leader Soler. The other two riders from Discovery Channel are at 1 minute and 28 seconds, and we still don't have a positive ID on the situation of Cadel Evans. Now he is somewhere in between those two gaps. You can see this is the yellow jersey group now starting to get themselves pretty much organized at the front end. They need to all work together. We've got two riders from Case d'Epargne. David Arroyo is one of those riders. Just looking over his shoulder here. This is Popovic doing the work for his teammates. They're trying to encourage him to come to the front and help in the pace-making. Popovic is a very tough rider. Contador, an incredibly explosive rider. I'm a little bit surprised to see the acceleration coming from Contador today. I thought he would wait until there was a mountaintop finish to try and really put the hammer down. The profile sort of goes a little bit against his abilities because of the fact that you've got that very long ride down. There is Cadel Evans. He's approximately 30 seconds behind those two chasers, so he now is also stuck in the middle of no man's land as well. He's got his big gear in, he's getting into his time trial position, realizing this is a big opportunity for him here this afternoon. He stands a chance of moving up in the overall standings. He could, with a performance like this, leap over Andre Kushekin and Alejandro Valverde and pull himself up into 4th place on a day like this. This is 25 kilometers to go now. Just looking back there, you can see the leader of Team Euskaltel, Jaime Zubeldia. Haven't spoken very much about him at all throughout the afternoon. But here is the lone leader, separated by around about 5 kilometers, because he is about to go under the banner indicating 20 kilometers to go. So let's 20 kilometers or 12.5 miles to the finish for him, and at speeds like this, that 20 kilometers is actually going to take him only 20 minutes, because he will be averaging approximately 60 kilometers an hour. These two riders are battling to pull themselves in, but I think they've got it pretty much locked out right now. That's Popovic on the back, Contador in front. Contador is doing a phenomenal ride here. He was incredible on the slopes of that climb, and I've got my clock on this 20 kilometers to go banner. They are in fact telling me on race radio that Cadel Evans is 28 seconds behind these two riders, and they're certainly not going to sit around and wait for him to come back up to them. Popovic now finding something special. Cadel Evans, in fact, I think Cadel Evans now has decided to sit up and wait for the group of the yellow jersey to come back to him. He realized he couldn't catch the two Discovery boys.
Well, the Discovery tandem is closing in, Paul, but hardly by a fast amount. They're now 1 minute and 32 behind him. It took him 4 minutes to cover the last 5 kilometers, by the way.
Well, he will be averaging not far off 55 kilometers an hour on this run down to the finish. The Discovery riders here will bury themselves because they know this is a big advantage for them, and they won't have to hold anything back at all because they both come from the same team. Cadel Evans was officially given a deficit of 28 seconds on these riders, Phil, but I have a feeling he's now decided to sit up and wait for the yellow jersey group because he doesn't have the strength to get across to these two men on his own. 1 minute and 32 seconds as they went under the 20 kilometre to go banner, and around about a minute back to the yellow jersey group.
Right, well, at the moment, they're not gaining now on the leader from Barlow World. They've had a poor 5 kilometres where the leader did 4 minutes for 5 kilometres. We're looking at the boys. They're splitting up a little bit here on this descent as they start to split. These are the 11 riders. They're still trying to stay clear of Alexander Vinokurov. It's a superb road for high-speed chasing this. And Evans, if he is waiting, I'm not sure, he might be making a mistake there, Paul, because I've got the feeling these boys might stay away.
Well, he's there. He has been picked up.
Caught, yeah.
He didn't want to waste his energy. He couldn't see himself pulling himself closer to the tandem there as we go under the banner. It's 2 minutes and 20 seconds to the yellow jersey group, so just inside of 1 minute between them and the two-man breakaway group, two-man tandem of Discovery Channel. But you can see that now Contador Evans decided to sit up and wait. Probably in the long-term picture, probably a sensible move for Contador Evans. He didn't want to waste all of that energy to try and peg himself back to Contador and Popovic.
Well, Christophe Moreau at the back here, emptying all the water out as much as he can. He's struggled up the climbs, but he stayed in. Contador Evans is off to the far right and looking over there. I thought for a moment Contador was stopping, but a false alarm. I think he's looking for his team car now to sort out and find out what is going on here. 17 kilometres to go.
Well, at the front, we've still got the lone leader, and I have a feeling he's not going to be seen again here this afternoon because he's got the advantage of this race being almost completely and utterly downhill towards the finish, apart from that last 1.5 kilometre climb up to the finish line. There is the race situation, 1 minute and 38 seconds to Popovic Contador, 2 minutes and 21 seconds to the yellow jersey group, and further back, 4 minutes and 7 seconds back to Alexander Vinokurov, who I think this afternoon, Phil, is actually losing his title as Tour de France challenger.
Well, he's pulled back 47 seconds, that's all on the descent so far. Nothing like the gains he needs if he's going to rejoin that chase group. Gusev here has found his second win. He's settled into this group now, which is a reasonable group. This should be Vinokurov's group with now 16 kilometres to go. And the chase is on after the Colombian rider who just rode away from the field on the way up the Galibier. That'll be Vinokurov's group at 4:03 as they've gone under that banner.
Well, they're looking at 16 kilometres to go. That's 10 miles. Normally in an individual time trial, that would take you around about 23 minutes. I have a feeling with the incline that these riders are taking advantage of, it's going to be around about 18 to 19 minutes before we get to the finish line. Look at Jaroslav Popovic here. He's battling. He's digging deep into his reserves here because he's not thinking about himself actually in this situation. He's thinking about Alberto Contador. They're laying now down the foundations of what they hope could be a victory for Team Discovery Channel in the race overall. And if they make a mistake with this tactic, they're still holding back Levi Leipheimer, who's quite openly said, and there's Leipheimer in this group, Leipheimer in this group. Leipheimer has said he is waiting to make his big move in the Pyrenees because he loves those mountains.
Well, let's not forget either that Popovic was a fourth place finisher in the World Time Trial Championship once for the under-23s. He then came to the Tour de France and won the white jersey as best rookie. Now he's putting that strength into holding off all of the favourites in the Tour de France. And at the minute, Vinokurov has lost 2 minutes and 17 seconds more to the yellow jersey group. And that is big time when you add it to his 5 down behind the leader already. So he's got to try and get out of this hole he's digging himself into. 15 kilometres to go as this man's speeding now towards Briançon, still up front.
15 kilometres to go. His gap over the yellow jersey group, 2 minutes and 15 seconds. You can almost feel the pain that he's going through there as he gets out of the saddle once again to try and lift up that pace. And the gap now is almost 2 minutes back to Alexander Vinokurov, who's losing again huge chunks of time on our third day of the Alpine passes. The yellow jersey group is pulling themselves slowly but surely back in the distance there. You could see the town we're heading for, the town of Briançon. Popovic again comes to the front. He will give himself everything that he can to look after the interests here of the team and of his teammate there, number 112, Alberto Contador, who has ridden a fantastic season so far this year. He was a massive revelation in the early part of the year when he came out and in incredible style won himself the overall classification in the 1 week race, the race from Paris to Nice. Followed it up almost 2 weeks later by winning himself the Vuelta a Castilla León. Finished 6th overall in the Dauphiné Libéré, but Johan Brunel told us this man is a phenomenal star of the future. Almost didn't ride a bicycle again when he blacked out in a race and fractured his cranium. He was taken to hospital where he had to have a metal plate inserted into his skull, and since then he's fought his way back into the sport, and now he's fighting his way right up to the top end of the sport, 1 minute and 20 seconds behind the leader. Well, looking back down here, the riders now are looking at around about 15 kilometers to go to the finish. This is the group of the yellow jersey, which contains nearly all of the pre-race favorites. The one man who is dramatically missing is Alexander Vinokurov. Michael Rasmussen is in this group. Valverde is in this group. So too is Kloden.
8.5 miles to go, or 13.4 kilometers, Paul. They're under 15 kilometers from the finish, and they're not bringing it back. The Maillot Jaune group goes through at 2:06. They went through the previous one at 2:20. So in 5 kilometers, they pulled back only 14 seconds.
Well, the men doing the most of the pacemaking on the front now seem to be Case d'Epargne, the team of Alejandro Valverde. What's going on here? I really can't understand this move. Contador and Evans let a gap go there, and at this speed, you dare not let a gap go on the running down towards the finish line. And you can see how attentive Andreas Kloden is there, because he's come straight to the front. I don't think Kloden is hurting at all anymore in this bike race, Phil, because he is nailing back the gap.
I think you're absolutely right. He is now the strong man, and today they may have to switch allegiance in Astana team and say Vinokurov is not the man. It's going to be Andreas Kloden, and he might rue the day he paced Kloden and dropped from the leaders going into Teen. But that split, and it's Evans who opened it, and Evans is being left to close it, and that's another mistake. If these boys want to go down with that front group, they've got to close it now. And look, there's nobody willing to chase it shut because they've got teammates up there, and Moreau is trying to make the most of anybody else's moves. Well, he needs to do it himself.
I have to say that is a pretty amateurish move by these guys. These are serious top-end professional bike riders. You don't let a gap go like that on a charge down to the finish line in a town like Briançon, because it is so difficult to pull it back. And they're all, again, as we've seen on a number of occasions, a little bit scared to make the move themselves because they don't know how the other guys are going to react. And now it's all the way up to Evans to chase it back.
And Moreau won't help, but he's got no reason to sit and watch there. Now it looks like Kloden has said, I've got a hand out here. Even though he's damaging the possible deficit of his team captain, they're allowing the yellow jersey to go away.
Well, this is a very strange move. This is the group now of Alexander Vinokurov and Denis Menchov sitting on the back of that group. Another man who was regarded as a pre-race favourite. He worked very hard, though, this afternoon for Michael Rasmussen, who now is going to have to be the #1 leader for Team Rabobank. So it's 1 minute and 10 seconds, the distance between the lone leader and the two chasers, and Alexander Vinokurov is at 3 minutes and 58 seconds. He's still actually losing time.
Well, he's picking up time on the leaders because he was at 4:30 5 kilometers ago, so they are coming back on the chase. Somebody has really got the hammer down in the Vinokurov group, and they've allowed this split to happen here. They've caught out Sastre as well as Moreau, who's gone to the back to keep out of trouble. Evans needs a rest. He's been attacking all of the time, and they've put Sastre on the front. It looks as though they might be closing in.
Well, what they need to do is just forget about all the rivalry and actually work together as a solid group. The first mistake there made by Carlos Sastre, I think since the start of the Tour, is to let a move like that just slide off the front. Somebody let the gap go, the door was open, then all of a sudden you've got David Arroyo on the front riding like a man possessed. Michael Rasmussen is there, Kim Kirken is there. You can see this is a serious move now that those riders should really have been very attentive about.
Oh, and the big rider in orange, Astelos, is having the ride of his life today as well. He's been leading as well as in the chase group. They've allowed a dangerous split to open. Remember, they're wasting a lot of energy here now. Once we go into Briançon, we turn left and we have to climb what is a really nasty little climb up to the finish, and they'll lose time on that if they're not careful. Just sitting at the back here is Iban Mayo, but he's in the wrong group as Kirkin tries to get across. Astoloza looks who's coming. Huge effort required. I'm just wondering if Astoloza wonder where everybody else has gone in this group.
Well, that's probably why he missed the back wheel there, and when he saw Kim Kirkin coming by, and he's had to make a seriously big effort just to stay in contact with this group. Michael Rasmussen has seen he's got a big opportunity here this afternoon because he knows his time trialling ability is a little bit suspect, and any opportunity to gain time over everybody else is a good opportunity.
Well, this isn't working out too bad today for Michael Rasmussen. He's split away into this front group of 5 riders. We still don't forget we have 3 men up front apart. They had the Discovery Channel tandem trying to nail back the long, lanky Colombian rider who shocked everybody today. He is still on his own.
Well, Levi Leipheimer putting his hand up here saying, come on, you guys, let's get ourselves organised. Let's work together. But Levi's not going to work himself as we go at 10 Ks to go.
10 kilometres to go. This man is still holding a lead, and it's to the last kilometre is uphill, 9 more down. These roundabouts are on the outskirts of Briançon here, and so Sola Hernandez is still holding his own. We'll get another time check of that 10-kilometre banner against Contador and Popovic. The last one we have, though, is 63 seconds. It is going to be desperately close, but what a result this would be for Barlow. And the yellow jersey group remains split here, with the other favourites somehow, unbelievably, allowing this gap to happen on a downhill.
Well, this is a pretty crazy move here. Andreas Kloden, I think, a little bit frustrated. And now Levi Leipheimer thinks, well, you know, we've messed this up now. Let's get ourselves organised. You see him indicating there the wind is coming from the right-hand side. So come on, let's get 2 lines. Let's make sure that we don't lose too much time on Michael Rasmussen, because he knows if you mess around in the last 10 kilometres, that clock is going to read 2 minutes at the finish line.
They've gone under just on 1 minute, 59 seconds. They're closing. Are they closing quick enough? They had 2 minutes and 4 seconds on the top of the Galibier, and they're now in the last 10 kilometres. They might yet complete a perfect day for Team Discovery Channel, who had a plan, and so far it couldn't have possibly have worked out any better.
Well, it was a good move. They've put a lot of riders into serious difficulty. 1 minute and 17 seconds is the time back to the yellow jersey group, and around about 1 minute and 30 seconds back to the second half of the yellow jersey group. And they're all saying, what do we do? This is a young kid, Kobo, a big revelation this year. Won himself the Tour of the Pays Basque. On the front is Iban Mayo. And they're panicking, Phil. They have no idea how to put this race back to rights. I can tell them it's very easy. Just go to the front and share the pacemaking. That way you'll do it.
They're too confused now because they don't trust each other. There are riders there who don't want to chase. There are others who are compromised, like Levi Leipheimer with 2 riders up the road. This man is going for it, and he's never looked over his shoulder, Solar. He is absolutely brilliant today. I can't imagine what his team manager, Claudio Corti, a former world amateur champion, is doing now as he watches this man head in towards the finish. 8 kilometres to go. Contador and Popovic, and it's Popovic who's the driving of the train now. He's the time trialer. This boy's the climber.
Well, this boy has just put the earpiece back into his ear. He wants to figure out what's going on in the race now. I'm not quite sure what Jaroslav Popovic will have said there, but he has got the big power on the flatlands. Look at the acceleration now coming from Kim Kirkin. That's putting now the 2 riders from Case d'Epargne on the defensive, and Michael Rasmussen, yellow jersey on his shoulders, riding himself back into this race. The red number on his back, by the way, was for the most aggressive rider of 2 days ago. I think that was quite a good choice, Phil.
Well, these boys, we've never seen so many riders in the Tour de France for years be at the top end of their ability. They can't go much faster, and they're all pretty much equal here as they now try to pull everybody back into the race. Here's Vinokurov's boys as they are now heading for the banner, which will give them 10 to go. They are coming back, you know, but the gap is closing ever so slowly. They were 3:58 at 15. At 10, they are going to be 3:21. Inch by inch, they're pulling themselves back into this race.
Well, it's a big battle now for Alexander Vinokurov. He's thinking about this all of the time. There's confirmation of the gaps at that 10-kilometre to go sign. But there's a massive chase at the front by the group of the yellow jersey to try and distance himself over not only Alexander Vinokurov, but everybody else in this bike race. There's Andrei Kushekin. You won't get any help, boys, I have to tell you, for Case d'Epargne, because they are trying to do something special this afternoon. They've got their man in front. And this is why it's great to be in a strong team. This man at the back, Levi Leipheimer, could just sit there on the tail of this group and say, sorry, gentlemen, but I've got 2 men in front.
And he's sitting there. It's a shame he missed the split, though. It's only seconds at the moment, but it could be costly. Contador Evans, who fell back and waited for these guys, somehow let the door open because he'd been under so much pressure. They made the mistake of not closing it quickly, and now they're spending the rest of the day trying to race up to these guys, and they may not see them till the showers.
Well, Valverde is giving everything. He's not too worried at all about this. He's happy because he's got his teammate in the group, Jose Ivan Gutierrez. And remember, Gutierrez was one of the riders who went into the early move of the day. Right in front of them now, the 2 riders from Discovery, and it's Michael Rasmussen in person, the yellow jersey, is going to nail back the gap.
Well, look at this. The yellow jersey is bringing back the Discovery tandem, and they're only about 55 seconds behind the star of the day. This is real gritty Tour de France cycling at its very, very best. Now, it might help if they catch those 2. There might be a slowing, and the others could come back.
And that will be the time when Levi Leipheimer will be able to take advantage of this whole situation, because he's just sitting in that group behind, nice and comfortably, not contributing anything at all to the pacemaking. But those 2 riders from Discovery Channel, Phil, have yet to sit up. Jose Ivan Gutierrez is working his heart out for Alejandro Valverde. Michael Rasmussen, I think this afternoon, is making a very nice operation, putting time between himself and everybody else.
Well, Popovic is the driving force. Contador hasn't been able to help since he come off the mountains. But Valverde is driving these others back into this race. He's got to, because he can't give them any leeway here. He's got to save seconds. The way this Tour is running right now, it might be won in Paris by seconds. Here they come now in the second group here of Contador Evans. If they catch up with the 2 front runners, they might slow enough to let this group on. But Paul, we're not, he called you Phil then, we're not far from the climb, which is only a kilometre, but that could open up seconds.
That climb, the final climb up to the finish line, is 1.5 kilometres. The 2 riders now from Discovery Channel, Popovic on the left, Contador on the right, are now back in the group, the yellow jersey group. They're looking over their shoulders and say, oops, where is Levi Leipheimer? They need to accelerate to get back onto this group, but the group behind contains their own teammate, Levi Leipheimer, Christophe Moreau, and a lot of the other major favourites.
Now, the yellow jersey needs to get to the front. He's reduced his enemies here. It's time to move on. They've all come together at 5 kilometres to go. This is the leader, though, and the clock starts now. How much has he got now? He's still got a lot of guts, this rider. He's out of the saddle again. This will be the biggest moment of his life, not just for him, for Colombia and for his team, who've never been in the Tour de France.
Well, he's got to battle now. The only thing he's got to battle is himself, the inner energy that he can muster to keep himself going on the final downhill into the outskirts of Briançon. And I hope, Phil, he's read the road book tonight, because the road book explains exactly how the run-in is over the last 5 kilometres. You drop down over the last 5 kilometres for 3.5, then all of a sudden you take a nasty left-hand bend, and the climb up to the finish line is going to be very difficult indeed, almost as tough for some of these guys as the Galibier itself.
You may have seen the fort on the hillside. Well, we are commentating at the gates to that fort. They have to climb up to it to finish today. Now they're coming back together here, they're reorganising. This might favour the leader, because they were racing each other to split up the time gaps. The leader, they're not quite so excited about, because they wouldn't see him as a likely winner of the Tour. So it may help in the fact they've caught each other.
It will be a major help for him, because he's still holding on to a minute of his advantage. Now slipping away from this group is this young man, Juan Jose Cobo, the winner of the Pays Basque racing in the early part of this season. He was a major revelation, but I think he was trying to help in this group to get Iban Mayo back into the fold.
Well, the leader lost only 1 second in the last 5 kilometres of his lead. These riders here are now coming up, and that's what we thought would happen. Once they caught the Discovery duo, they've eased up, and now Leipheimer is going to come back into the action as well.
Well, this would be a nice move for Levi Leipheimer to try and get himself away on this final climb up to the finish line here in Briançon, because he's been sitting there locked at the back of the group. He's been in a defensive role because of his 2 teammates in front. But Cloden is the man who's finally nailing them back. There's Carlos Sastre behind him, followed by the French champion, followed by Contador Evans, and just holding on there. Iban Mayo must be wondering, what has happened to me today, because I was better than everybody 2 days ago.
3 kilometres to go. That one man will not know what's happened, but all of the favourites, except Vinokurov, of course, are back together. That's 4 kilometres to go.
4 kilometres to go now, but it's 3 kilometres to go for the leader. These riders at these speeds are separated by approximately 1 kilometre.
Should be enough.
De la course. Jose Juan Mauricio Soler Hernandez is in the outskirts of Briançon-Ville. He's got 1.5 kilometres downhill. Then he will turn to the left and start to climb up to the finish line right outside the Citadel.
Well, there's going to be a lot of people lining up to want to sign this boy onto another team after this ride. They'll have to fight to keep him on Barlow World. He has been an absolute star here. When you're given a chance as a wild card to ride the Tour de France and you win a stage, then you really have lived up to a great reputation. The boys behind are going to explode when they get to the final kilometre. They're at 3 to go.
Jose Ivan Gutierrez is on the front, setting the pace for his man Alejandro Valverde, but Jaroslav Popovic is still very keen to keep the pressure nice and high. They can see they've got themselves a big advantage. I think they've left it too late, but they're banking on the fact, and that's why they're keeping the pressure on here, that Soler in front has a hard time when he hits that steep climb up to the finish. They will not give up.
The Baker's dozen, 13 riders chasing one man. They've made little impression on him in the last 5 kilometres. They've all come back together again. Moreau stays in this race for France, tagged on to the back. These are desperate moments. We're into Briançon. It is dangerous now. These corners dive and duck, and they switch back. They descend very steeply, and then it's a horrible sight when they come round a corner. The road just goes up to the heavens to the finishing line. 2 kilometres to go for the chasers.
Well,
he's
it's
looking for
coming
one.
down. It's 50 seconds, 48 seconds, and he's now inside the streets of Briançon. But that wall you were talking about, Phil, when you see it in front of you when you've led the race, that's it.
This is it. Wait for it. He sees the kilometre. He sees the wall. They can't take it away from him now. Surely he's got to find those climbing legs just one more time.
Well, they're stopping the cars behind the lone leader now, Phil. They're emptying the gap, so nobody is in there at all. I want to will this man on. I want him to win the race this afternoon. There's the French president witnessing a magical battle here in the Alps this afternoon. But this is the big move now.
This is Jaroslav Popovic who's gone again.
Popovic is trying to set something up for his man Alberto Contador, and slipping backwards. There is Gutierrez. He'd done the work for Alejandro Valverde. Leipheimer is in a little bit of difficulty at the back here with the acceleration of his own teammates.
Well, they've got to get rid of all those motorbikes out of that gap now. They've got to give the kid a chance up front. Cadel Evans is making his throw for the finish. They're racing the leader. They're racing themselves because they know on this climb they can open a gap of 10 or 15 seconds on one another. As now Moreau again continues to struggle. Saster's finished. This man is climbing to victory. He's got his rhythm again.
He's got his rhythm. He's just got to keep it going. It doesn't matter if he wins by a second or 2 seconds. That's not important for him. The important thing is to win for Colombia and to win for Team Barlow World. A little look over his shoulder. He knows how quickly they'll come back at him, but he's still got good climbing legs. He's still got those legs ticking over. We can't yet see the shadow of the group behind him. And surely, Phil, shortly, this man is going to smile. Surely he's going to get the win inside of the final kilometre. Evans now is seriously looking, and Rasmussen has taken over the pacemaking at the front.
Rasmussen, the yellow jerseys, come through a day today. A few shocks, but still a very solid leader of the Tour. It looks as though Moreau might concede a couple of seconds by the finish. Evans is moving up on the shoulder of Rasmussen. This is going to be a very, very sharp finish today. We can't see the man in red. He must be very, very close to the finishing line now.
This is how difficult this final kilometre is, and there he is still in the lead. He's got a big advantage. He's 500 metres to go.
That's
they will
enough.
not catch him anymore, because once he's round this corner, he'll see the banner. There it is, just around the corner. Push this man home, because he's made an incredible move on the slopes of the Col de Galibier, and I think he's heard us, Phil, because he's finding a little bit more energy. He's pushing himself now. The pain is slowly starting to disappear from his thighs.
This is a rare Colombian victory. It is a definite first victory for Barlow World in their first Tour de France. It's a South African team. They've got a lot of foreign riders on it. But now this man who flew around everybody, having been 6th over the top of the Telegraph, wiped them out on the Galibier and somehow held them all off on what has been a tremendous race from the top of the Galibier to the top of this little climb in Briançon. There's time soon to zip up the jersey and salute the crowd. They won't stop him now. He has got the win. I can't think of his name. Juan Mauricio Sola Hernandez has won the stage.
Well, he's won the stage, but these men are fighting out for a few time bonuses. You can see on the front there, that is Contador and Evans. They're putting time between themselves and Christophe Moreau, who battled his way back into the race on the slopes of the Col de Galibier. But Alejandro Valverde is coming up for the second place. A few more time bonuses for him. This man is insatiable when it comes to getting places. He's going to get himself a 12-second time bonus on the line, maybe a bit more, because there are gaps appearing with his acceleration, while Contador and Evans is just hanging on.
There should be time gaps here as he comes up to the line. He's coming at around 38 seconds. Contador and Evans on his back wheel, little gap to Contador, and then comes Mayo, followed by the yellow jersey, and Moreau here has lost about 40 seconds overall on the day. And Vinokurov, well, the clock will start now, but could well have seen the elimination of Alexander Vinokurov today as a winner of the Tour de France. The gap now, the peloton at 12 minutes, forget them. The chasing group is almost a minute, forget them. The winner of the Tour de France stage today is one of these 5 riders. 2 kilometres to go. Albacete swings wide and takes a good look at the riders. This could be a World Championship sprint final here on the velodrome now, as nobody knows quite what to do.
And what a fantastic run into the finish as well now, because it's pretty much straight all the way down towards the run-in. There's a couple of little roundabouts they have to negotiate, but from the final 2 kilometres, it's a straight crack at the line. It's straight from the final kilometre, straight from the final 2, but still, it's the cat and mouse tactics now. We're at 1.6 kilometres to go. Jens Voigt flicking his wrist, asking somebody to come by. Well, I'm sorry, Jens, at this stage of the game, nobody's interested in working anymore. They're all just trying to find the wheel of the man they want to follow in the sprint.
Vasseur won't sit there too long. We've got to be careful now. We're getting into 1.4 kilometres. They're looking for the red kite, which is the 1,000 metres to go. Whoever opens the sprint will surely lose the race, and they know that. Albacete wants the second wheel of whoever is in front, because he looks like the sprinter today. There it is, the bridge over the road, and look at that for a sprinter's finish. 1 kilometre. As far as you can see, the finishing line awaits.
Well, Jens Voigt now is going to be forced to lead out the sprint. Albacete knows who's the strongest man in the race. He wants Jens Voigt's wheel for the lead out. The Frenchmen lined up in 3rd, 4th and 5th place. They're dreaming for glory for France. And once again, they seem to be more worried about who's going to be the first Frenchman, because Cassar looks over his shoulder to see Algon. Vasseur is sitting pretty there in 5th place, but Jens Voigt, you watch him when he starts to wind up the sprint, because he is the big powerhouse of this breakaway.
And this could be a slow-motion sprint here now. They've thrown everything at one another. That hasn't worked. Now it's down to a pure sprint. Albacete, the way he's riding, you see, tight on the right barrier. They can only pass him on the left. He knows that. He's letting Jens Voigt stay there at the front. The 3 Frenchmen have gone off on the right together.
Well, I think you're right. You know, Albacete seems to be the man who's got the explosive finish, but they're going to back it off. They've been away for so long. It's got to be a short sprint. They've got to wait. They're inside of 400 metres to go, and still they haven't started.
That's a short
Voigt
sprint.
Is very, very short. They haven't even started yet, but look at the Frenchman starting to get out of the saddle. Voigt is looking now to start winding it up.
Algan, he's missed Vasseur up the other side. Vasseur switched, and everybody was watching Algan. Now he's ripped away on the left of the picture, Vasseur. Albacete's come through the middle here now, taking on Cassar. He's got to reach Vasseur, and I don't think he's got it. This is going to be a very tight finish, and Vasseur made the move. Albacete looked at Algan, and Vasseur went up the inside.
Well, that's the second stage victory for Cedric Vasseur. Their great win for Team Quickstep. It was a brilliant move by that man. He waited till the last possible moment, and he went right up through the barriers. These are the next 2 riders on the road. This is Stav Shearlings from Team Cofidis and Paolo Bassoni. This should really be a formality for the little Italian sprinter there, because he really has got a great turn of speed. But Stav Shearlings wants this quite dramatically, but Bassoni, I think, has given up the ghost.
He tried, but he sat up. Shearling says, no, it's mine today. At least Shearling rides for a French team, and Bassoni coming in there in 6th place. But what a terrific win that was, and there's the victory margin. And France got 1st and 2nd at the end of the day. You see, Cassar 2nd, dropped on the climbs. If you don't get rid of them, they bite back.
Well, look at that. Algon getting fourth, and poor old Jens Voigt, the strong man of the breakaway, getting fifth place over the line. Look at this move here. You see Vasseur, he waited. He saw the open of the gap there, the opening of the door, and he got them on the jump, and that was the big surprise as he goes down the barriers there. He knows the only way they can pass him is on the right-hand side. This was a do-or-dive move. Cassar coming back just a little bit too late, dies alongside him, can't do it.
Well, this is the peloton. They've taken the time in getting here, but it's still a very important sprint for the green jersey competition, and Bonen's right there. His whole team on the front now. Stegman's leading him to the line. The man who won in Ghent trying to take him. Boonen is in a perfect position here. So too is Robbie Hunter in red. Coming through on the inside as well is Hushoff. A big lead out for the line for him too, and now comes Chavanel. This is Sebastian Chavanel as Hunter fades away. Now there's one man to go, and then Bonen is for the line. But Ventosa is in yellow. Chavanel, Bonen's out of it. As we come up to the line, Chavanel is going to get the better of them, and Ventoso and Bonen gets through on the inside. He might just have got it, but I'm not sure. Just look at the damage being done now in the crosswinds of the Camargue here. Even Johan van Sommeren's been caught at the wrong end of the split. If you were not paying attention today, the wind has tore into this peloton, all because of the strong riding of Vinokurov's Astana team.
Well, a few riders getting caught out. Vladimir Gusev there has gone back. I did see Alberto Contador in the front of the race with George Hincapie, but he was almost begging George Hincapie to ride in the wind and protect him. He's a young rider, Alberto Contador. We've seen him ride superbly in the mountains, but he's not yet, I don't think, Phil, learned the technique of riding in the crosswinds that we're experiencing here.
What happened there was they brought that breakaway back by almost a minute with that reaction. But I've got a feeling they've turned the power off again.
I'm not sure they have, because in some of the back groups they've already got rid of the sprinters, Thor Hushoff and Eric Zabel missing out. I'm a bit surprised about Eric Zabel because he is a very clever, canny rider. Nobody, though, I think expected this. They were quite happy to have a nice, easy ride, but it's going to have a serious effect on the overall advantage of the five leaders.
Well, let's have a look now on camera. You can see the fact there's no cars behind the pack here. There are now riders behind the field. They'll be left in no man's land. The commissaires, the race referees will let no cars into the gap and protect them from the wind, because this isn't the fault of a flat tyre or a fall. This is a lack of energy, so they won't help them back to this pack as the pack continues to be driven on here at the front.
Well, Discovery Channel at the front here, you have to actually ride in an echelon like this to make sure you don't get popped out at the back, because riding at the front in a situation like this allows you to get a little bit of shelter from the wind. The most dangerous place to ride in a group like this is at the back, because you can get sliced out and immediately get popped out at the back. There you can see George Hincapie, red, white and blue, protecting Alberto Contador. It's very difficult, and unless you've ever done this, it's very difficult to understand how difficult it is to ride once you get the wind in your face. That's why we've got this diagonal line, and it's a very important part and technique of professional bike racing.
Just take a look at the face of these guys now. There's 100% effort here now to cause damage at the back. We had to change of direction there. We made a right-hand turn. It means now the field is taking the wind on the left shoulder. There is the injured Moreau this morning. If he's in any way in pain, he's going to be in big pain now, because this tour suddenly turned a bit ugly in the last few minutes as the riders thought it would be a routine finish, a break and bunch going down to Montpellier. The gaps are forming. When you see gaps form like this now, riders chasing holes in the peloton, they are in huge difficulty here. This has caught a lot of riders unexpected.
Moreau, caught at the back, was comprehensively uncoupled from the main group, lost 3 minutes 20 at the finish in Montpellier, and pretty much any chance of making the podium in Paris.
But someone else has just chunked down the right-hand side of the road. This could be a big surprise. Look at Quick Step. They cannot panic. It's a right. It's Vinokurov.
Well, look at that. Go for it, Alexander. 3.9 kilometres. Is this why he set it up? Revenge could be sweet. What a turn of speed by Alexander.
This is unbelievable. He's 21st place in the overall standings, and he's gone out to the front end of the main field. His team toughened it up. He's putting pressure on the sprinters right now. I don't think he's going to pull it off, but this is a brave move.
Boy, this will win him a lot of friends, because this is the injured man, the odds-on favourite to win the Tour de France. He's lost his chance. I think he's 8 minutes back now. It was his team which split the field today to put Moreau out of contention, and now the cheek of it. He's trying to win on his own here down in Montpellier.
Well, forget about this attack on the flat, Phil. This man, despite the pain, look at those knees, both of the knees completely and utterly bandaged up. almost 45 to 50 stitches in both of them together. When we go to the Pyrenees and the attacks like that, ooh, it's going to hurt.
And it's hurt Quick Step, but they've clawed him back in here at 2.8 kilometres. His escape was about a kilometre. They're all thinking, what on earth is that man doing? But they've clawed him back. Now there'll be a change of direction. This isn't looking so good anymore for Tom Bonan, because this race is no longer under control. Everybody is charging into Montpellier with everybody in with a chance.
Watch out for Julian Dean, because when I saw the split a little bit earlier on, I saw the black and white jersey of the champion of New Zealand. I can't see him here, but with Team Crédit Agricole setting up the pacemaking like that, I'm sure that Julian Dean must be thinking about the possibility of a victory. Team Liquigas are right up there as well in 3rd, 4th and 5th place, but Tomica Boonen is right there. Still on his wheel is Robbie Hunter.
As we head under 2 kilometres to go to the finish, we're on a sort of dual carriageway just out of town here, but it gets a little bit tortuous. We duck and dive and go through a tunnel, believe it or not, before we line up for the finish. There's still time for confusion, and Julian Dean is right there, that white jersey with the black collars. This could be a great day for New Zealand if he can get it right. There's an attack gone up with a tremendous change of speed, because we're heading for the tunnel.
Well, CSC have taken a look at that advantage. The acceleration now is putting a lot of riders under pressure. Robbie Hunter must not panic. He must stay there and wait and gamble on this all coming together. We've gone underneath the tunnel. Who's going to come out first? 3 riders with about a 10-length advantage over the front end of the main field. But very quickly, it's all back together.
It was Cancellara who launched the attack there, which he was also 1 kilometre to go. Now, this is a right-hander. Then we've got that another right-hander at 500. And they've gone far too wide, and there's been a crash down on the barriers, and we don't know who's taken out, but it's given Liquigas the lead.
Well, there was a sweeping bend over to the left-hand side. A number of riders have gone out, but it's Liquigas have got the organisation. Robbie Hunter's right in there, filling about 6th position.
Well, Freddie Rodriguez is a faller from what I can hear at that very bend as they continue to line up for the finish now. And this is a huge turnout, but this is not going to be a routine finish. Tom Bonan at the moment is not in the hunt for this.
Bonan was one of the riders who went down. I'm looking to see if I can see the green jersey there, but Robbie Hunter is in an ideal position. He's in around about 4th.
Hunter now dodging in amongst the wheels here as the sprint is opened here by Timo. That's 500 to go. Hunter springs wide here. The rider's just about holding the line. Bonan and Rodriguez down in the sprint. Robbie Hunter now is heading for his first ever victory in a stage of the Tour de France. Barlow World are having a dream tour. Can he hold on? This will be a special win. He's being challenged. He's got it on the line. Robbie Hunter scores for South Africa. The wildcard team have got a second stage win, but the sadness is that Bonan and Rodriguez down on that corner.
Well, they came around that corner in an unbelievable speed, and they were caught out, I think, by the severity. But what a brilliant sprint by Robbie Hunter. He was right at the front, and he was never very far away. This is the crash. We're having a look down who's on the ground here. A linker over on the left-hand side. That's Freddie Rodriguez who's gone down. Julian Dean went down as well. There he is in the black and white, the Kiwi. Ventoso has gone down also, but this was the chaos inside, and this is Frank Schleck. He was also involved. He was at the front end of the group, and that's not really a place where he should have been.
Well, Marcel Seberg, the tallest man in the race, was down there as well. Freddie looks a little bit stunned. These are the riders coming in now. Let's hope that they're all okay. Julian Dean was right in the position there. They went too wide. Just take a look at that. They swept out far too wide. They clipped the barriers. Foot on the ground there for Tom Bonan, and he's brought to a stop, but I'm not sure Tom actually fell off.
Well, I'm not sure if he did go down, but one thing we know for absolute certainty, that the man in red and white of Team Barlow World, Robbie Hunter, lunges for the line. And is that man happy? I think so.
Well, wouldn't you be? Because Robbie Hunter has just got South Africa's first ever stage win in a Tour de France. Throwing everything into the chase here, and it could be a catch right in the home straight. These boys are defying the peloton, and it is a terrific race into Castres. 4 kilometres to go. The gap at 5 was 32 seconds. It might be now 25 seconds. We'll know in a minute or so. They will begin to think They might just get in by the skin of their racing shorts.
Well, they will not give up until they can feel the main field behind them. There's no organisation now. This is not a very good chase. It's turning over towards the advantage of the two leaders. And at a point like this, when you've followed two men out at the front end of the race, you want them to survive. It's 22 seconds now, Phil, at 4 kilometres to go. That really is not very much. But the two men at the front will not give up. They'll keep fighting. Tom Boonen now looking calm and collected, pushing his radio button there to talk to the team manager. What do they look like at the front? Are we going to catch them? But he's still got to stay there and wait until the last moment.
If they continue to gain at the current rate, they will catch them 250 yards before the finishing line. And I can't believe that they can't win now if they really... To look at the face of this little man here. Amach Chiruka, the lightest man in the race. He weighs 56 kilograms and he's a climber and he's desperate and he's at 3 kilometres.
3 kilometres to go, and I'll tell you one thing, if they look over their shoulder now, Phil, in these long straight roads, their main field will be right behind them, but they can't give up. They've got to believe right until the moment that they get caught that they will survive. The main field there is waiting to pounce, and under that banner there, it's just 13 seconds.
They're saying 15, let's give them 15 as they go under that banner now. 15, that was 10 seconds off in that kilometre. As they now come relentlessly, these are the boys in blue, the men of the rider in green. Tom Boonen trying to lead him to the line. Eric Zabel's boys in the light blue are getting mixed into this now. This is going to be a desperate finish because these two riders are confusing the teams of the sprinters now. They should have been caught by now. They should be thinking of the sprint win. Instead, they're still having to chase two riders.
Well, that's the traffic island there at just around about 2.3 kilometres to go. That would slow down the main field. A couple of guys have gone the wrong way. Sorry, mate, I think you're going to lose a few places in the line when it lines up again. But there is the red car behind the two leaders. That's the car of the race referee. It's being pulled forward. It's an open road now for these two men. As they look back, they can see this big black mass behind them charging down. That's no longer 10 seconds. The blue mass on the front is Team Quickstep, and they are now looking at these riders. It is so close indeed. That's less than 10 seconds.
Well, it might just be 10 seconds, but they're closing fast now. Rodrigo has looked over his shoulder. He knows the catch will come probably when he looks up ahead and sees the red kite in the road, signifying 1 kilometre to go. Caught 1 kilometre from the finish. They've been in the lead since the 52nd kilometre. The sprinters of Tom Boonen still drive on. They still live in hope, these two. Certainly the little Spanish boy does.
I just noticed Julian Dean moving up to the front there, and right on his jersey was a green and white mass, and that was big Thor Hushoff. Thor Hushoff may well now have got himself back into this race. Boonen is up there into fourth. On his shoulder there is Julian Dean. These riders are only just getting caught, Phil, over on the left-hand side, but Liquigas now are trying to pull Pipo Pozzato up to the front.
Well, I think they've been caught at about 800 metres from the line here as the field has taken over. Pozzato's boys, no, 1 kilometre was the catch. At 1 kilometre to go, the domestics swing off now and look in the hope that the big sprinters will take it up. And Tom Boonen has got a perfect shot at this in third.
Well, his team now are lining it up. This is the train, the blue train of Tom Boonen. The man in second position is Gerrit Stegmans, the winner of the stage into Ghent, and he's going to try and launch Boonen into the attack. Locked on his wheel is Eric Zabel. Locked onto Zabel's wheel is Robbie Hunter, and locked a little bit further back is Daniele Binardi. Look at the pain, the anger, the fear of these men as Stegmans opens it up for Boonen.
Well, as they start now, the man in white who grits his teeth as the champion of New Zealand, that is Julian Dean now. This is the final lead out for Tom Boonen as Stegmans comes, and there's a kick on the far right. Boonen goes now, Sebastian Chavanel on the far, and now Zabel has got the wheel of Boonen, and Hunter's still there. Hunter dodging with Zabel. Zabel might get the better here of Boonen. Boonen gets it, Zabel, Hunter. What a result, and the sprinters do to the favourites who are left to start in this race.
Look at that. Look at that. Second time check, 44 minutes flat for Alexander Vinokurov, a new best time at the second time check. And here he is now, and look at the time gap between him and Wiggins. He's going to go best time here at 38.5 kilometres covered. It's not going to be a slicing off of the time, it's going to be a slaughtering of the time of Bradley Wiggins at 38.5
By the next check, Paul, he'll be looking into the eyes of Jaroslav Popovic. This man is on a mission today. His mission is to get back into the Tour de France so he can try and win it in the Pyrenees. He has really tried every inch of the way, and look at that face. Alexander Vinokurov is back in the Tour de France, 1:06:34.
With conditions clearing up and the roads drying out, Vinokurov's teammate and fellow Kazakh Andrei Koshechkin also came in with a time better than Bradley Wiggins. Despite coming off, another Astana man, Andreas Klöden, was going well.
Klöden's got up and kept the pressure on, and he's racing up to the line. It's going to be tight, but he makes it. He gets in second, so top 3 for Astana.
Well, Michael Rasmussen has in fact got Alejandro Valverde in his sights. This is almost unheard of, and between the 38-kilometre mark and the 49-kilometre mark, he's actually ridden at exactly the same speed as Contador and Evans. He's lost still 1 minute and 30 seconds of his advantage, and he's finishing this time trial off in incredible style.
Well, it just shows you what the yellow jersey does to a man. Sean Kelly said it. He said you can ride time trials or you can't. But when you're racing to win a race, you can ride time trials. And look at this. Nobody, but nobody would have ever laid the bet that Michael Rasmussen would have caught Alejandro Valverde. Never. You'd have got 1,000 to 1. Huge efforts by Evans. He's in his own playground. He's a great time trialist. Tomorrow he's got to prove he can climb in the Pyrenees alongside these big men. He's still heading up, and he's going to get inside Wiggins' time, I think, as he comes up. He's got 24 seconds to do it. This is only the third check at the top. He was third fastest at the check at the bottom, and he's going to go through now in second best time. So he's gone over Wiggins. Look out on the course now. This is a sprint. It's almost like the last kilometre. Valverde will look across. He's seen the maillot jaune. He thought the sun had come out. And Evans now continues to remain a major challenger for Australia as he races up towards the line here. His head bobbing. There's the time he's got to beat for claiming second place. There's nobody behind, approaching him at the checkpoints. Hits the line, second now, 1:07:48, only concedes a minute 14 to Vinokurov. Evans has been the big gainer today, but this man goes into the Pyrenees in yellow. Michael Rasmussen licking his lips, his tongue comes out. He knows now he's done the ride of his time trial life as he comes up the home straight, and he's not even the last man to finish because he has passed the man who started in front of him. He won't be a high finish that you would expect from a maillot jaune like a Miguel Indurain or a Bernard Hinault, but he certainly has grown in everybody's stature today. Rasmussen comes home with a good minute in hand of what it would have cost him, I think, to lose the maillot jaune to Contador and Evans. Almost exactly a minute.
Through these gorges, they really are deeply vegetated and highly forested at the moment, but where we are at the finish line, once you get up to the altitude of 1,500 meters or so, all of a sudden the trees tend to disappear. There is no more tree line, and we get into a very rugged area which could almost be the surface of the moon.
Well, yet another one of the fortresses all the way around. This is the Usson Castle, which towers over the base of the climb itself. And now they know that the main field is about to begin the ascent.
Well, this castle is a very old castle. It goes way back to the 10th century, although it was inhabited up until 1794. You can see it's had a few knockabouts throughout its history.
They never did the garden either, Paul. Look, it's gone out of control now as the riders course down below. And now they know they're going to be on the climb. The Chateau de Usson, as they now make their way through. Well, I think we're going to see some action on this climb, Paul. That peloton is going to split.
The peloton certainly will split, but I wonder which one of the top contenders will make the move here this afternoon. There's two teams in this race have got a large number of contenders to try and do something very special. Team Astana have 3 riders highly placed. You've got Andreas Klöden and Andrei Koshechkin, who are in 4th and 6th place overall, and of course Alexander Vinokurov, who is in 9th place. And let's not forget also, Team Discovery Channel have got Alberto Contador in 3rd, Levi Leipheimer in 5th, and not too far away in 15th, Jaroslav Popovic. David Cañada, David Miller at the front end of the group here. They're giving their pacemaking for the team. Well, we're now getting to a situation where the six-man leading group has lost a large amount of its lead because they're down to 6 minutes and 30 seconds, and the first casualties are starting to appear in the main field, who are chasing very hard on the early slopes of the first big climb of the day, the Porte de Paillere, 16.8 kilometers. And very shortly, I would think a lot more of the sprinters will start to disappear, because the hammer is being put down at the front of this group by David Miller, the Scottish rider from Saunier Duval.
Well, that was a bit early to see Segman slip away, Paul.
It certainly was, but in fact, at the front of the group as well, it's a bit early to see the hostilities here. You've got the Liquigas rider who's suffering at the back. This is Kuczynski. Yeah. He's alongside Antonio Colom. And Carlos Barredo is the man who's seen the danger of splitting so early on, and he's jumped straight across the gap.
Well, Kuczynski's doing well to hang on. I thought he was going to go right out at the outset of this, but no, Antonio Colom is just in front of him. And the trouble is always being caused by Chiruka. He has the red number on his back, red for danger perhaps, number 78, and also the most experienced rider in the breakaway. In the black is Jose Ivan Gutierrez.
But one of the riders, like many of the riders in the main field, who's got bandages on his body. There have been so many crashes. We're still looking at 13 kilometers to go to the summit here of the Porte de Paillere. It's a long climb, but it's made more difficult by the fact that it peaks out at just over 2,000 meters in altitude. I wonder if Kuczynski is saying to himself, oh, what am I doing here this afternoon? Why did I do this? But he found himself in a much larger breakaway group that actually got weeded down to these six men.
At least he looks like Lance Armstrong there, Paul, with that low cadence, or high cadence and low gear he's pedaling. Trying to save his energy here because he knows he's not going to make it to the top with this group, but he wants to make sure he can make it to the finish with any groups that pick him up. So he's riding sensibly in the low gears. Gutierrez just about keeping a lasso around Chiruka rather, up there, because that guy's anxious to get on with it. Now, Gutierrez might well say to him, look, it's an awful long way, these climbs hurt. Just take it easy, save some strength.
That would be the voice of experience, because let's not forget, we're still looking at 63 kilometers to go to the finish. We've got this 13 kilometers left to the summit of the Porte de Paillere, and after that they've got a nasty 16 kilometers to the summit of the Plateau de Bay. You can already see the formation at the back of the group there, Phil, of what is shortly going to be the Autobus, the group of riders who get together on every mountain stage with just one hope left in their minds, and that's to get to the finish inside the time limit.
Yes, just look at this now as they drop off. These are the days they do not like. They have only one fear for the next 3 days, which is elimination and staying in the race. Philippe Gilbert, a little bit surprised to see Philippe so early in the rear group, 165 there. But he too is having great difficulty straight away today. Nicolas Vaugandy here, nearest camera, former champion of France. Robert Foster, the sprinter, I think that was probably to be expected. The peloton, still quite a few of them down there, but look at that big bunch forming at the back. That is the Autobus.
It certainly is. I know all about that. These riders will get together. They'll form this group at the back end of the main field. These are the sprinters. These are the men whose bodies are that much heavier than the climbers. And not surprising to see 101 looking for the back step of the Autobus either, because Thor Hushovd is a big man to get through these hills. Just at the back there as well, slipping away. That is one of the riders from Saunier Duval, and that was Christophe Rinero, who's doing a lot of work early on to set the pace up and try and do something for his teammate. 162 moving forward here. This is Sébastien Chavanel again, one of the young sprinters on the FDJ, the younger brother of Sylvain Chavanel. And Sylvain Chavanel is actually riding rather well in this race here. He's in 33rd place overall, second best Frenchman. The best Frenchman who started at the midweek of the Tour de France in 6th place in the overall classification, Christophe Moreau, has plummeted down the standings now to just 23rd. So Alexander Kuczynski, he's dropping back for Belarus, the only Belarusian in the Tour de France this year, leaving a 5-man leading group. And surprisingly enough, as we head towards Spanish frontiers, the 5 Spaniards.
Yes, they've got rid of the one Belarus rider there, and he's just off the back. As we now look at the 5 Spaniards, at least they can all speak to each other, Paul.
Well, I'm not sure on the slopes of a climb like this is going to be too much chit-chat going on. It's Perez on the front, followed by Chiruka. Taruko, the lightest man in the race and a man who has not been scared at all to go out into the breakaway on a number of occasions, and I think finally enjoying the fact that the Tour de France, Phil, is getting back into his favourite terrain, the mountains.
Well, there's the beauty of the climb. Whenever you see a hairpin, it lifts it up another 150 metres or so. So you know the more hairpins, the higher we are ascending. The man that really lost out on his Tour de France, once in the wind and then in the time trial yesterday on the far side there. That was, here he is, Christophe Moreau in the red, white and blue jersey.
And riding with Tom Bonan, and that's not a good indication.
His mind's gone.
I think Moreau has completely and utterly gone. He was, we say in cycling jargon last night, Phil, he wasn't even on the first page of the results in the time trial. For a man who was 6th overall, it's the lights have gone out and there's no more power in the engine room.
No, Tom's become the driver of the autobus, and Christophe Moreau is with him, so he'll be losing today, probably his best French rider overall position. He still is in 22nd place, but now that elastic snapped on this climb, he's looking at 15 minutes down at least.
Easy. At the end of the day, he will plummet away. I think we'll see the best Frenchman being, of course, Sylvain Chavanel, former time trial champion of France. Moving forward now, we get a chance to see what the composition of this group is up the road, and this is starting to be a slightly smaller group of riders. Just cracking onto the back there, you might just notice number 66, that's John Gadret. And he's a rider we've seen put in some pretty good performances in the mountains in the Giro d'Italia, but he himself, Phil, the other day admitted, you know what, the Tour de France is not the Giro d'Italia.
I think they know that now. And just looking down there, the field, this is a tempo bunch of climbers. There's nobody attacking in this main field, but you can see they lifted the tempo to suit themselves, and they've blown half the Tour de France away in these early slopes here. But that's the routine for the moment. They will just keep the pace high, and those that can stay, can stay. And they'll look to perhaps go over the top in this situation. 5.5 minutes plus to the peloton. Tom Bonan's group now at 6:45. So already 1 minute and 15 seconds lost additionally by Moreau.
Well, I really cannot understand what's gone wrong with him unless it's a bitter psychological blow. He will probably blame his accident of the other day, but Alexander Vinokurov certainly didn't blame his accident at all.
No, he fought back. Mentally, I think Christophe is finished.
With the main field now just starting to go through the town of Ruse. That's 133 kilometers covered, 64 kilometers to go. But the breakaway is around 3 kilometers in front of them at 61 kilometers to go. But the yellow jersey group is now at 5.5 minutes. And at one stage, that time gap reached a maximum of 11 minutes and 20 seconds. This is Saunier Duval on the front end of the main field, ticking out a very nice tempo.
Still a lot of riders. There is Rasmussen just watching his team. Cadel Evans is also there paying attention, and there's one or two riders now beginning to reposition themselves here before this race splits again. They've got to be careful they don't position themselves at the wrong end of the peloton. Somebody opens the door, and before you know it, you're off the back of the lead group and you've got to waste energy catching up. Here at the front, all of the yellow strip, and not the yellow jersey, the yellow strip of the Saunier Duval team. Their plan is obvious now, and they've probably signalled that to the peloton. They're trying to get their man Iban Mayo across the line first at the finish.
Well, it's a great indication to know that Iban Mayo is in good form. We've seen him in the last couple of attempts at the Tour de France, Phil, with disastrous form, and sometimes he's not even been able to follow the gruppetto going over the slopes of some of these mountains. But the fact that he's rallied his team to the front end of the main field means that he wants to try and do something special on the slopes of the Plateau de Bay. This is the leading group of 5, and all they can think now, they've been in the breakaway for a long time, and what they want to do is try and conserve as much energy as possible, but they know that there will be a major onslaught behind them from the main contenders at the front end of the peloton, and the yellow jersey may well be challenged on this first incursion into the Pyrenees.
Just the 5 Spanish riders. Kuzinski was the first to crack. That's what we expected. These boys might take a little bit more work before they do crack. Just Gutierrez has ridden 4 tours. His best finish came in 2004. He was 51st. But he's having a very good tour at the moment, is Jose Ivan Kuzinski. lost only 15 minutes so far. Just looking down there at the peloton and on our computers, 76% they're saying Sony Duval have gone at the front now to the 24% of Rasmussen's team. That could favour Rasmussen later in the day.
Sergei Ivanov going backwards. He's one of the riders from Team Astana. He did a lot of work throughout the first 14 days of this race to look after his team leader, Alexander Vinokurov. And I think Alexander Vinokurov, Phil, yesterday paid all of his teammates back to show that he still can be a captain and a threat. Slipping back as well now. Teammate there of Contador and Evans, Dario Cioni. And also slipping backwards as well, one of the riders here from Team Discovery Channel, Sergio Paulinho, the silver medalist from the Athens Olympic Games. Moving a little bit further up. Not surprising, number 55 there, Juan Antonio Fletcher. He did a lot of work on the first flat part of this race here to look after his leader. And he too will now try and conserve his energy and make sure that he just gets to the finish inside of the time limits.
Well, the move has been good today, especially once again by Astana, because after their brilliant time trialing yesterday, they retook the lead in the team competition. And if this break were to succeed, then they wouldn't be losing it either, because they put a man in the breakaway as a watchdog for the team prize, and that's Antonio Colom. I think he got his ride on the Tour team this year, Paul, when he won that 5th stage of the Dauphiné Libéré, and that was when he got the nod. He'd be on the team.
It was very difficult, I think, to choose the team now. There's a little bit of aggression here at the front end, and looking back at the rider here, it's Chiruka who's gone clear, because he's the man with the red number on the orange team, and he's decided he's not waiting, not taking any prisoners at all here this afternoon, and he's off.
And the others are just getting on with their climbing style here, not lifting the pace. Not all climbers. They like to dictate their own speed and lift to their own speed and drop down, lift again. Most riders can't do that unless they're pure climbers, but there's no doubt that this man is a climber. Climbs steadily, and Euskaltel Euskadi always look for a performance in their home territory. Just over the Pyrenees in Basque land, that's where they all come from. And for the moment, he's got away from them, but it looks like they may be trying to just limit his escape here.
Well, I think the important thing is when you come to a climb like this, the most important thing is to ride at your own level, your own tempo. Because if you try and follow the accelerations of a climber like Chiruka, it can put you into the red zone. And if you go into the red zone on a climb like this, all of a sudden you can't respond. But you see how they've slowly but surely dragged themselves back up to him with a slow progression rather than a violent attack. Now, he might get a word from his teammate Perez.
So I was just going to say, you're right, Perez. Perez has gone up alongside. No, he didn't say anything. Those two can speak their own language, of course. Basque, even though their Spanish is different to the Spanish, the Catalan languages that the other Spaniards speak, so they may be able to say things the other Spanish riders do not understand.
Well, that's quite true. The Basque language is a very complicated language, and it's only the Basque riders who are well attuned to that, and that could be their advantage. We're now going through the town of Mijanes. Almost sounds as Spanish as we start together. That's 135 kilometers covered, and that is 11 kilometers to go to the summit for the main field. But we've still got a separation of about 3 kilometers between the yellow jersey group and the 5 leaders.
Interesting thing about that town, you saw all the buildings there. It was built facing the sun. All the houses are built east to west and face the midday sun. Did you know that, Paul?
I didn't know that. That's a very good idea, because for the majority of the year it's actually rather cold up here.
Exactly right, yes.
So David Cañada doing a lot of pacemaking at the front. David Miller in second position. He's very happy to come forward and set the pacemaking. Still with those yellow bands on his arms, and those yellow bands are because he's got this very nasty reaction to the sun. You can actually almost see the very thick cream he's got on his hands and arms there, and that's because he's suffering from a little complaint known as prickly heat. And unfortunately, they've not been able to yet isolate a treatment which is legal and conforms to the anti-doping regulations.
We're just watching in the back here, former King of the Mountains of the Giro d'Italia, Fabien Weckmann. His shirt tails flapping in the wind, having to get round and move back up towards the group.
Just looking at the back here as well, the rider from Team Rabobank is Grisha Nierman. He's suffering to stay in contact. All of the riders from Team Rabobank will try and stay in contact with this main field for as long as possible, because they know that later on, if their man Michael Rasmussen is isolated, he's going to come up against 3 or 4 riders from Team Astana and 2 or 3 riders from Team Discovery Channel, and they don't want that.
No change with the top 5 up front, although Barredo a little bit slow to react there when Colom came past him in the Astana colours. He looks as though he's getting under pressure now.